Welcome back to another new podcast from the CoatingsPro interview series. My name is Ben Dubose, and I'm a staff writer with CoatingsPro Magazine. On today's show, we're going to be talking with Mike Chambers, owner of Chambers Painting in Sellersburg, Indiana. Like many coatings contractors in our industry, Chambers has had its share of problems in recent years at hiring tradespeople due to the tight labor market. However, a chance encounter in December ended up changing that, at least for the time being. At the airport in Sarasota, Florida, Chambers ran into Mike Rowe, the longtime host of Dirty Jobs on the Discovery Channel. As the name of the show suggests, Rowe is a big supporter of workers in the trades professions, and when Mike Chambers shared his personal perspective with Mike Rowe, the more famous Mike decided to take a selfie together, and then he wrote about their conversation to his 6 million followers on Facebook. As part of that post, Mike Rowe relayed many of the workforce experiences and challenges that Chambers had told him about, as well as some of the creative ideas that Chambers had shared for gaining and retaining new workforce members. The post quickly went viral, and since then, Chambers Painters has seen a surge in interest, which in turn has allowed the company to hire dozens of new painters. In our conversation with Mike Chambers, we discussed the implications of his celebrity encounter and the sudden fame of his company, as well as his labor advice for the industry as a whole, and specifically all those contractors that aren't lucky enough to have a viral encounter with Mike Rowe. Without any further delay, let's play back that conversation. Mike, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Doing well, Ben.
Thank you for taking the time. I know it's busy for you, and I think a good place to start, if you could, just give us a little bit of your career history, your personal biography. For anyone that is not familiar with Mike Chambers, what is sort of your career in the painting and coating industry over the last few years?
Okay, well, I actually started the painting career in 1983. So I'm a second generation painting. My father was before that, so I actually moved to Dallas, Texas in 83 and started the painting career doing residential with my father. And since then, I've started another painting business back in 94. I was actually 24 years old. Did that for 10 years, did residential, new builders and what have you, then sort of just got out of that. And then went somewhere else for another 10 years working for someone for a company that I ran. It was more commercial and industrial based. So, and then after that, I started my business in 2010 up to now. So, yeah, that's pretty much the back history. I also have two sons in the business as well, so that's pretty cool. So they are actually the third generation painting. So.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations. And I think if you could just tell us a little bit about Chambers Painting. You said you started your own business in 2010, right?
Yes, sir.
So where is it based? How big is it? And what types of projects do you guys do?
Okay, so it is based in Sellersburg, Indiana. I also did have a satellite office in Tampa, Florida. But we started in 2010. We do nothing but commercial and industrial painting. So we do jobs for like General Electric here out of Louisville, Kentucky. That's basically where all our work is. For GE, so and then Fort Knox, we do work for Toyota. Also UPS World Hub, basically all the hospitals, airports, schools, University of Louisville, and what have you. And so it's been really going well. We have around right now, we probably have around 83 painters.
So one of the interesting things that I think has happened for your company of late, you've been in the news. And that's one reason why we're bringing you on this podcast, because I think a lot of people over the past couple of months may have learned of Chambers Painting, not just from the great work that you do, but also a certain story that went viral. You met Mike Rowe, the guy who does Dirty Jobs for Discovery Channel. Was it at the airport?
It was actually in Sarasota. I have a place down there, so I was actually in the Sarasota airport. We had an extended layover, so I was trying to work with that, and I heard Mike Rowe. I turned around, heard his voice. I'm going, oh my gosh, that's Mike Rowe. So
What did y'all talk about? I was going to read the post, but actually it's probably easier if I just let you tell the story. What was that conversation like, and what was it like meeting him?
Well, actually, I went up and talked to him. I said, hi, I just, I think the world of you. I've always watched you, and I got a company, so I've just, came out of high school and now I got this company that does very well, multi-million-dollar business that I built. And he loved that. And he wanted to hear the story because he's all about tradesmen and not college and people going out and doing what I've done. So he asked me to sit down, and we sat down and talked. And he asked me about how many employees I have, the kind of projects we do, and what kind of like health insurance and what I have for the employees and all the jobs. And he was just really enthused with my business. And so while I was sitting there, he got his laptop out. He says, "Do you mind if I post your story on my Facebook?" And he took and did a selfie of me and him and posted that thing, and it went viral. Had 36,000 shares and over 300,000 comments.
Yeah, and he's
So
got like
yeah,
6,000, or not 6,000, excuse me, 6 million followers overall, right?
he does. Yeah.
So what's that like for Chambers Painting? I'm assuming you guys are, a standard coatings contractor, and then all of a sudden you
Yeah.
go viral with 36,000 shares to an
Yeah.
audience of 6 million followers. What's that like all of a sudden seeing, your company go from just, your standard coatings contracting business to all of a sudden having your story go fairly mainstream?
It was crazy. So that was when we was meeting. It was probably 6 o'clock that afternoon.
Mhm.
So I get up in the morning. I got my controller here at the office. She's going, "Mike, you wouldn't believe this. People's calling from all over the country, thanking you for what you've done and what have you." And then she goes, "Now this local news channel here, it's called Wave 3 News, said they want to interview you. They would like to do that today." And then I'm like, "Oh my." So I came in and I called the guy from Wave 3 News, and he says, "Can we be there in 15 minutes? Your post with Mike Rowe has gone viral." So they came over, did an interview. It was actually on the news that afternoon, at evening or at night, and the next day. So we got so much exposure from it. And the thing was, we was needing help. So that was
Mhm.
pretty much the thing with Mike Rowe, that we couldn't get qualified help. So that really did open up doors for us to where we actually hired about really probably 8 to 10 really good painters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was really good, and so now I'm like a little local celebrity around here. Short lived, but yeah, it's really done amazing things for us in the business. So because of that, of course, I'm talking to you. We have now Benjamin Moore has come and did a national commercial that's going to be coming out in March here at my office that they did. We had production here for all day from like 13 hours
Oh,
doing a
damn. That's
commercial for
awesome.
them. Yeah. So it really opened the doors for a lot of things.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that you were talking about with Mike Rowe in that conversation was your experiences, your challenges with developing a workforce. And
Mhm.
obviously, that post was a good stimulus in that, it all of a sudden got you some very qualified applicants among painters. Just over your decades in the business, I know you've said you started in 1983,
Mhm.
and so that's almost 40 years, right?
Yes, 38 years.
So
Or
over that
yeah,
time,
actually it'll
how,
be 40
yeah, that's
in
what I was
June.
thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, next year.
Hmm.
So what have you seen as far as like the evolution of the painting workforce? What are some of the challenges today, and what are some of the strategies that potentially we should be doing to address that?
Well, what we're having problems with is skilled trades in all, in all trades.
Mhm.
It just seems like no one wants to get their hands dirty and do, hard work. And it is pretty much hard work. So I think that the problem is like we need a journeyman's class, apprenticeship. I mean, a class to where these guys we can get come in and sort of train them. I know the best is on the job training, but it's nice to have some kind of an apprenticeship program to get these kids out of school and get them taught. And painting is a very good business. I mean, I've never been out of work in these
Mhm.
39 years. So, think that if like vocational schools and high schools would do that versus welding and other things, I think they need to add in coatings, and blasting and what have you, because it's a big thing. And even if you go to college or whatever, you can always paint on the side. So yeah, we just need better. I've actually worked with some schools here in Indiana to where we're trying to get this into all the schools. So that is something we're working on as we speak.
Do you think the problem has gotten any better or worse since you were early in your career in the 80s and 90s? Obviously, the big thing that's changed is digitalization. We talked about you going viral, and that's something that 20, 30 years ago was obviously not a thing. You didn't have this interconnected world the way you do now. Is
Mm-hmm.
the problem getting any better, or is it arguably getting worse? Just sort of curious what you see as in terms of the evolution of it.
It is definitely getting worse. It's just where we can't get anybody that wants to work,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much a national thing going on. And I don't know what people are doing for work, but yeah, it's a tough thing, and it's definitely getting worse. And what it's had me also do is where I've had to increase the pay from
Hmm.
around $4 to $5 an hour, and I've added on some benefits like now. And I love this. I'm glad I can. I just have to pass the cost on. But now we're having to pay all holidays.
Hmm.
I went from 1 week vacation to 2 week vacation now. So I've had to do things to keep perks to keep my help because I got a lot of guys that people want because you can't get anybody. And yeah, it's tough business. I'm telling you, because back in the 80s, it was no problem at all in the 90s, even 2000. But now it seems like since 2010
Hmm.
on, we can't get good qualified help.
That's interesting. And I wonder if there's a correlation to social media and the increased digitalization, because really, I would say the modern world, the way we communicate and distribute information now really started to change like the late 2000s. And so, yeah, that makes me wonder if there might be a correlation there. And perhaps that's a strategy in which you sort of use it to your advantage. Certainly, you guys did the last couple of months with the
Hmm.
micro viral post scenario that we've been discussing. Of course,
Yeah,
that's sort of organic and hard to script, but it does feel like that maybe that digitalization transformation had some unintended consequences for the coatings industry. You
absolutely.
mentioned the apprentice program earlier. What are your general ideas when it comes to gaining and retaining workforce members? What are you thinking that we can do in this environment to sort of steer more people in the direction of this industry?
Well, we need to get some kind of, as far as what I think, we need some kind of federal help to where we can get this applied to where we get federal funded to get people to come in and help
Hmm.
teach this stuff and have facilities to get these people trained. It really does. I mean, I actually went through an apprenticeship program. I started out union. So, it's a big thing. I mean, and until we get federal help, we just got to hire these people and hope for the best that once we get them and get them trained and get them where we want, that they stick with the company. So, it's a tough thing. But I think that getting the facilities and getting the government involved and we used to have this back years ago. Like in 2005, there was a place that was federally funded, and it taught people all kinds of different trades. That they stayed actually. It's sort of
Hmm.
like a mini college for federal. And but yeah, I don't know what else to do other than trying to now try to get these people in, which is almost no one wants to work.
Yeah.
It's I mean, these young people, and I'm not knocking young people. There's some that really do want to work, and I get it. But there's a lot that just doesn't want to get their hands dirty.
So when we talk about some of these federal programs that you mentioned haven't really been in place since 2005 and some sort
Mhm.
of stimulus measure to get these trades businesses moving, why isn't that being done? I think, as you mentioned, this goes beyond coatings. This goes to, the micro dirty jobs thing. People just don't want to get their hands dirty, period, the way they did 15, 20, 30 years ago, as you was saying.
Mhm.
Um, why aren't these strategies already in place? What do you think the roadblock is in terms of why people, at least in the last 10 or 15 years, haven't really address this problem? It feels like maybe the last few months or last couple of years, you're starting to see some momentum. I'm seeing a lot more talk about the workforce challenges and people trying out these new types of solutions. But you're right, definitely the last decade, 15 years, it doesn't feel like there's been an appropriate emphasis on the problem. Do you have any idea why that is?
I really don't, Ben. I've tried to sit and think about it. I don't know if it's because of social media, and I don't know if I mean I think there's what 11 million jobs out there right now that people need.
Mm-hmm.
11 million people that needs help. I don't get it. I really don't. I don't know if they're getting money from the government or what they're doing to live. But yeah, your guess is good as mine on that. We've all talked about it here in my office and had meetings like, how do we get this and how do we do it? And so, I put ads in all over. I would like to get more skilled trades than versus getting a bunch of people that doesn't know how to paint. And it's very aggravating. You say that when we're actually starting out very well for our area. We're above most people on the starting pay. So it's very challenging.
Yeah. So advocacy is definitely part of the solution, and we can all do that as far as the industry at large. Mm-hmm. But what are some of the things that you can do on an individual company level? Because I feel like the last 10 or 15 minutes, we've been speaking largely about just broad, big picture. How do we sort of get more people, policymakers, whoever it may be, to understand the extent of the problem and what needs to be done? In terms of, I guess, the micro instead of the macro, what are some of the things that you can do as someone who runs their own painting company or somebody else listening that may be in charge of their painting company? What are some of the things that you can try on an individual company basis that might address some of these challenges?
We're just trying to bring people in and train them. We've actually talked about and here's what we're going to do. I'm actually going to start pay someone to come in on Saturday and start training these people in my warehouse. And there's a lot of ways to train. It's how to mix paints and coatings and how to apply, how to spray, what tips to use, and so on. And we're going to start doing that. And we're going to work with some of these people from the high school level, the seniors and what have you, and bring them over, juniors and seniors, and teach them on the weekends. So that's what we're looking at. And I think that we're going to hopefully change that part of the industry for us here to get this. And I think it's going to work out well. But other than that, we're just going to have to train, and you're going to have to do in-house training. There's no other choice.
Yeah, are they not getting the training that they need? And well, we mentioned the schooling issues earlier. Is that something that's fairly industry-wide, that you get these newcomers and they're just not trained to the extent that they need to be?
Right. Yep. No one has any skilled trades. Yeah. Of course, I didn't either. But we need people that wants to learn.
Yeah, and I guess learning by doing is the best way to do it, right?
It is, absolutely. I just jumped in it when I was 18 years old and went at it.
So before we wind down with Mike Chambers of Chambers Painting, tell me something you're working on now as far as projects you've got going. We'll use this sort of a commercial, because one of the things that I think some of the potential newcomers to the industry don't realize, you have some legitimately interesting projects that coatings crews can go out and do. Like, I know you're not working at this scale, but I was sharing with somebody, I wrote a story about a contract job that got done, I can't remember if it was 2021 or 2020, but basically doing SoFi Stadium out in LA, which is going to host the Super Bowl in 10 days from now. And, that's, obviously a very high profile example, but, what are some of the projects that you're working on or have worked on? Because I think, that might be one of the solutions too, is just making sure that people are aware that, hey, this isn't just, run of the mill painting houses. You go to some legitimately interesting places. What are some of the things that you guys are working on?
Well, one of our big jobs we have going right now is at General Electric. So we're painting exposed ceilings over top their production. So we're actually coming in at nights and dropping all the tarps and what have you and containing. And then by 7 in the morning, we have to have all the tarps back up, cleaned up and gone. and on weekends we go in full time. So that's one very hard job that actually these ceilings hasn't been painted since 1956.
Wow.
So they're horribly dirty. So that's a really cool job. And then one thing that haven't done, but we've done now is we're doing a huge job. It's an $800,000 project for University of Louisville, and it's their student housing. So it's a very big job that we have going. And then we also do a lot of work out of Fort Knox barracks and what have you. And we're also blasting a few tanks outside of General Electric, where there's some of the chemicals in the tanks. They're not too tall. They're probably around 30 foot tall. But we're blasting and coating that and what have you. So that's pretty cool projects. We're also doing a nice big warehouse floor coating job, along with the ceilings and deck ceilings and walls and what have you for UPS.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
See, and that's
UPS
one of the, yeah, and that's one of the things that I've read a few surveys of young people entering the workforce, and they always say that the younger generation wants to feel like that what they do is important. And in reality, you're working on these big facilities for people like General Electric, like UPS. That's pretty damn important, because if that infrastructure, those buildings aren't protected, then that's going to have some pretty adverse impacts on society if you don't have the right protection, and all of a sudden they start having real issues with their infrastructure. It's amazing how things can spiral from there. So I would guess that that's a selling point, that for you and your crews, you guys take a lot of pride in the fact that you go out and you do these jobs that to clients that really matter, right?
Absolutely. And that's one thing great about the painting industry and coating industry is you get to change things. You get to see, and it makes you feel good and proud. Even like another thing we have really cool, it's going for the FBI building, and it's their parking garage. Their structure, we're painting their structure with micro epoxies, and it's because of rust and what have you. So we're blasting and painting that. So, that's just cool stuff that we do to preserve things. And, like the FBI building, it's pretty cool to get in that. So they ain't going to let too many companies get in a place like that.
For sure. Absolutely. Right. I think that takes some credentials. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
So, one last question. When you mentioned, the epoxies you're working on with the FBI, what are some of the ways that the coatings themselves have changed, the technologies over your 40 years? Whenever I talk to somebody in the industry that's been around for a while, that's one of the things that's always on my mind. What are you seeing now on these jobs that's different in terms of their needs relative to 20, 30 years ago?
I'll tell you what, these coatings now with with the waterbornes and the water-based, how they preserve and preserve from rusting and what have you, it's gone like crazy over, and I'm glad, because back in my day, it was all oil-based alkyd, and breathing that stuff. So it's a much better industry for the health of my employees.
Yep.
And these coatings, these waterborne coatings, is just amazing these days. I just can't get over how they're. I mean, they're pretty much like epoxies, in way they preserve stuff. So it's gone a long ways. I'm not a chemist, but whatever they're doing is amazing, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys typically spray? Do y'all do brush and roll? I guess it depends on the client, right?
It does, yeah. So we do a lot of spraying. Of course, those deck ceilings we have to spray. But we try to spray as much as we can. That's for certain.
Yeah.
But there's
and of
always
course, the technology's getting better there too.
It is. Absolutely.
Well, Mike, this is really great insight. Before we let you go, I'm sure our listeners may have some further questions for you or want to get to know more about your company. How can they get in contact with you? I mean, it can be website, email, phone, whatever you like. Just contact information for Mike Chambers and Chambers Painting for any of our listeners at CoatingsPro.
So you can always look at our company at chamberspainting.com. Again, that's chamberspainting.com. And then you can reach out to me at my personal email. That is mike@chamberspainting.com.
Great stuff. Mike, thank you so much for the time. Again, my name is Ben Dubose, and for us at CoatingsPro, if you want to stay in touch with us, the best way to do that is going to our website, CoatingsProMag.com. That's where we'll break things for today. For Mike Chambers, I'm Ben Dubose. Thanks to all of you for listening, and please come back soon for another new episode from the CoatingsPro interview series.